more on perspective today, and I am going to show you a little bit of what I do to prep for a painting, and then I'll be doing the drawing. I'm not actually going to be working on the pastel paper today, for a variety of reasons. I never really got it drawn onto the paper. So I'll show you some of the preliminary steps that I go through, including the drawing. So I'm just going to step to the side, but you guys know the drill. Feel free, ask questions. Otherwise, mute yourself so that the noise doesn't carry through on the recording, okay? So what I'm going to do is just describe to you a little bit about, hopefully everything I'm going to show you is something that you can actually translate to your own photographs and then your own drawings. So I've got a series of little of photographs here just to show you how to go about finding that. Oh, I have to put the other sheet of paper up. Finding your eye view line. And starting off with something that's fairly simple. It's if we were standing farther on the corner, it would be a 2-point perspective because we'd be seeing the side of this building, but we're standing more towards the front, and we can tell that just because of the angle of the path that's going in and the slanting down. So any kind of a straight edge, I like these clear ones because I can see the photo. And oops, let me just get this. So the first thing we just identify is where I'm standing, and I'm standing somewhere right in here. I'm taller than that bird bath. I can see into it. That's hint number 1. Hint number 2, I can see the top of the step, which means I'm still taller yet. So my eye view is going to fall somewhere up here. But to find the exact one, all I'm going to do is going to take straight edge, and I'm going to line it up with one of the most obvious lines, and that's going to be the trim on the edge of the roof. I'm going to draw a straight line out. Now, I'm not going to take this line because this line's deceiving. This is not, it has to be from the same side of the building. Okay, and that's actually the roof, and the roof is now on a different angle. So I need to adjust all my lines based on where this one was. And this one's on the front of the building, and this being the surface that we'd be looking at. So if I did this, I could take any of these lines. I could take another part of the roof right here, and I'm going to line that up. And I'm going to draw that across. Okay, and there was the other one. I'm going to draw that a little bit darker so we can see them. Where the two of them intersect right here is where the eyeline view will be. I can double check that by going to any of these lines right here, and I'm going to go to the side, the front of the window box, not the side, but the front of the window box, because remember, all these lines have to line up. And I'm going to come across. I'm going to put it here, and it sticks out a little bit farther than the actual flat part of the building. So it's slightly farther over to the side, but it still falls in that range right there. So we could draw a horizontal line straight across, and our eye view line would be right around right there. And that's where all of our perspective lines would be built off of. And in this case, being 1-point perspective, started with one of the real easy ones. All this clapboard, all the lines are going to come off. They're all going to fall over here. The trim board might fall out a little bit farther because remember, it's not totally flush. That's the same thing that happened with this. It's not totally flush, so it might be a little bit farther to the right. When you're actually drawing, you do not actually have to use a ruler. But the reality of it is if you get used to using a ruler, well, a straight edge, I'm not using it as a ruler because I'm not using the numbers, but I'm using it as a way to make a straight line. Now you'll notice here, There's the edge of the step. I come out. Okay, that's going to be the vanishing point for the step. This is the vanishing point for the building. So again, when you have once you've found your eye view line, every vanishing point is going to be on that eye view line. So even if I go to the skylight up here, that's going to fall on this line. You're not going to have anything above or below it. Everything is going to be on. Might be slightly to the right or left, and it might be even more exaggerated like these two because they are farther apart. If this was a straight line coming up here, or I should say a cube right here, it would be farther away from the building. So we wouldn't expect them to be both going to this same vanishing point. Wouldn't make sense. They're not on the same plane. Any questions on that one? I like that. That's the front of my house when it's looking nice and pretty. Okay, let's take this and flip this guy around. Enough to do a few of these. Okay, this one here. Again, it's pretty straightforward. Where am I standing? Can you tell where I'm standing?
Kind of the middle of the brick walkway.
Yes, and what's your clue that I'm standing somewhere around here?
The lines of the bricks are coming straight toward us
Correct.
in the middle.
Okay, there's the edge right here, and if we go follow these lines right down,
Yeah.
okay, somewhere right, look at right there, the bricks, that separating point between bricks, it's pretty much straight right here, and then they start fanning out to the left on this side, and over here they fanned out to the right. Okay, we also see, we know this is an even, well, it is an even path, not all paths are, but we see that slant coming in there, we see the slant coming in here, and bricks, shingles, anything that has an even straight line is a great way of identifying where you're standing, because you can see that they're all straight as opposed to fanning out to the right and left. Okay, so I know I'm standing here, so next thing I need to do is find out where my, geez, that didn't help. I thought I was flipping that. Let me move that down. Next thing I need to do is find out where my vanishing point is, which will identify where my eye view line is, / horizon line. Okay, so I would not take the bottom of this building because there's a platform here, which means that the building, I do not have a straight line here. I've got the clapboard lines, any of them would work. Again, underneath the roof works. So what I'm going to do, oh, this one's not going to go in that direction anyway. Okay, so I'm going to take one of these. We can also see how high how tall I was, because where they start to even out, the horizon line, eye view line should fall right about here, because these guys, see the way they're fanning up? And then see the way these are fanning down? So it's probably somewhere right around there. So I'm going to take this one right here. Oh, maybe I'll do this one in white. Okay. Now, because I have all this great clapboard here, I'm just going to take another one, which is actually also the edge of the windows that are farther down. So I'm going to connect this to that, make sure that's nice and even. I'm going to come down. That is my vanishing point for these two perspective lines, which means my eye view line, oops, it's slightly lower than I thought it was going to be. Eye view line is right here. Now, one of the reasons we didn't use this building is because we're standing more or less in front of it, slightly to the right, but more or less in front. We can't see the front of this building, so we know that our view is pretty much a flat view of the side of this building, which means all these lines are probably going to be very horizontal, so they wouldn't be able to give us the perspective lines that will lead us to a vanishing point. And we would use that for anything that's flush against here. And remember what I said about when something's not flush, the edge of the roof comes out a little bit. Okay, the trim underneath and the edge of that roof sticks out just a little bit. So if I was drawing the roof, I could draw it straight down, but what I could also do is I could also tip it out just a little bit. You wouldn't want to go too much, but tip it in this way a little bit. But following that line down would work absolutely fine. What you'd have to do is just make sure that when you were drawing this building that you didn't lose this lovely little area right here that shows the edge of that roof. So again, finding where you're standing, finding the two lines that are going to bring you down to the vanishing point. And then this is another one that was fairly simple because there's not a lot of other things that we're going to be using to draw that will bring us to the eye view line, but there is something in there that we would need all this information for. What else besides, not this building, not that building, would you use your eye view line and create a vanishing point?
The sidewalk?
Yeah, you could use the sidewalk, absolutely. So if you were trying to figure out like how wide to do the sidewalk, you know that if you're drawing straight up like that, you're going to go like this. Okay. And then this one comes here. They have to, oops, that didn't even show. Okay, they have to crisscross on that new dot. See, I have a new dot here, right here. So this one now has to crisscross. And remember, the edge of this building's a little funky. So I'm sticking with the brick. I'm going to go with this brick right here because this one again goes in. So I'm going to go with that one. And that has to line up with this dot. And if I draw the straight line over, that lines up. Up in here, same thing happens. We can see far more of the top of this platform because where we're standing, we're above it. So we're looking down at it. You can see a top of this garden wall here, the top of the garden wall here. Less of the top here. We can see a bit of it because we're looking at it from the side. We do not see much of the top at all, except for the little bit that's catching light. So you could also use your perspective lines to actually create the wall that's going around. And the place that it would be really important is back here where that corner is. And again, this is facing us, that's facing us. Here, we're going to come over. We're going to have that go to that line. And then we're going to have the bottom go, and we want the bottom to crisscross at that line too, so that they would both, remember, everything's going to land right on that line. And then with the path, see the side of that? That would come over here. And that's all lined up together. That's still part of this whole platform. So we could have that line up with this one here. So that was our initial one. So see how many I'm winding up on here? And I could get really fussy. You could do it here because this is going to be on a slant too. There's bushes, plants that are covering it. But you'd still be able to, if this wasn't there, you'd be able to see another slant that's going up here. Here, I can see the inside of this wall here because I'm standing here. I can see the inside of the wall here. Here, I don't see the inside edge of the wall because of the angle that I'm standing at. Any questions about that one? And this one is just, you're pretty much dead on. So you're not going to be doing any fancy perspective with that. Okay, I'm actually doing a nighttime series at the moment. So this was one of them that I've done various sketches on, but I thought it was a good one to show for perspective. And again, here, can you tell where I'm standing?
To the right,
To the right, yeah,
the right side of the street. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I can see this, I can see this window, right? That's on, here's the front of the building here. If I was standing in front of this building, more like here, I would not be able to see these side windows. Okay, the closer I get to this corner, this is this is a lamp post, but behind the lamp post is the edge of the building. So I'm not gonna paint that in actually when I do this. But there's the edge of the building here. So the more I move in this direction, the more I'm able to see the windows on the side of the building because I've moved from here to here. And if I moved all the way over here, I could see the sides of the building, but I wouldn't be able to see this because of the angle I'm at. It would be obscured by the edge of this building right here. This one could get, these are getting more complex as we go along. Okay, so what's happening with this one here, what we want to do is we establish that I'm standing somewhere, probably standing somewhere in the vicinity of right here. That's just a guess looking at it. So what I want to do is now find where my eye view line would be. You could kind of guess it's going to be somewhere back here. Why is that?
Why is that?
The vanishing point of the street.
Yeah, because the street's going back here. So we know
Yeah.
streets are a great one. Just use the edge of the street here, the edge of the cars. We can make an assumption that there's a curb there and that they're more or less, this is not drafting, this is, our artistic interpretation here. So we can take a guess that more or less these two lines could converge. Let's see how close. Oh, I got to do this with white. I'm going right on the edge of the curb and I'm lining that up and going right back. Now I'm going to go over
Actually.
here and I'm going to there's the front of that car. There's the back wheel of that car. I'm going to go back. Now let's see. It's roughly showing up right about there. Does not mean it's going to wind up on this level right here. But let's find out. This is a guess. Let's find out with something that's accurate and let's see if we are right or wrong. Okay, here is the edge of the building. Okay. So I can see it very clearly here. I can see it here. There's just enough of light and dark shadows.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Go draw it right over. Okay. Now, this is dark. I cannot see a lot, but what I can see is I can see the edges of where the light and the dark meet, where we have the light coming out of the window and then the dark surround. And I've got this window here. I've got these windows here. And I'm going to take the window that's closest to me, and it's this one right here. And again, it has to be on this side because we started with the bottom side of this building here. Not this over here, because that's going in a different direction. This is the front, this is the side. So I now have to take it from the side. I got that. This is another really good edge. Look at that dark area right there next to the trim. I'm going to stick with the window and go line that window up. I'm going to come down. Oops, that didn't even show up. Come down. Okay, these guys are intersecting right here. So it's a little bit lower than our guess, but it's not far off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to double check it, and I am going to go right to that dark trim that's right there. Okay. I'm going to follow that. I'm not lining it up with the dot. Okay, so if it looks like I'm lining it up with the dot, I'm not. I'm lining it up just on that edge there. So we'll see how close that comes to it.
Oh, actually, yeah.
Whoops.
Hmm.
So everything is kind of converging right in this area. When
Mhm.
something like this happens, where they're not all, well, the first one was a guess. This one right here was our guess, just based on the sidewalk. This was the guessing one right there. The building, this area here, could it be slightly farther out than that part of the building? It actually,
Mhm.
okay. So I did base this, everything on this same front building. I usually stick with the same edge of a building if I can do it, so that they are a little bit more accurate. So I wound up with this here and slightly below it. So see that? One's here and one's right there. Pretty darn close. So this is the area that I would use. And truthfully, I would just find the happy medium between the two of them.
Mhm.
And this is why I like a clear straight edge, because see, I can see the photograph through it. And I can make sure that my ruler is horizontal, 90 degrees to the edge of the paper. And this becomes my eye view line, which means all these other lines, not the front, all these lines on the edge are going to roughly wind up in that area. Now, if I had been at a slightly different angle, this would turn into a 2-point perspective, because this building here would then be moving in this direction here. I'm going to show you that one in a minute. But again, similar to the last one, we were slightly standing in, not directly in front, but we could see that front on a pretty flat plane. So the amount of perspective that would happen would be very minor. And that you would, you could use your perspective and you could take it off by this being in the center. And then this would be your line. Get it. Oops. Oh, that's my paper that I'm drawing on. Forget that.
Hey, Betsy,
Yeah.
how many of those lines that you're drawing would you draw onto your page, your painting page?
Well, I'm going to be showing you, but what I do is
Oh,
I've been doing it. I've been drawing this stuff for a while now.
Yeah.
So I get down key lines and then I just do what I call the eyeball check.
Okay.
I'm not doing like a draftsman. I will say, when I first started doing this, now it's probably, 9 years ago, really seriously, I did draw with a straight edge all the lines, because I was teaching myself how to do it.
Okay. I can just wait. Thank you.
Yeah. So if we come down here, we go here, look at the front see the front of this sidewalk? That's really pretty much parallel to the edge of the paper. I'm going to go up and I'm going to check it with the edge of the front door where the light is. It's still not showing on an angle. Gonna come up here. Still not
Oh,
showing on an
straight.
angle. So I would probably not go and do a 2-point perspective. The next one's going to show you that, but that's how I would make the decision on that, is just based on my straight edge and whether or not the lines that are here wind up being parallel to the edge of my photograph. Now, what's important about that is, before you even begin, you need to make sure that your photographs are squared properly. And then is the next one the one that I'm going to do that? No. Okay, it's this one I'm going to do. So what happened is when this photograph was taken, I would then have to come back and using either my phone app or Photoshop, I would go in and I would write the photograph, how there's that little on your camera, and you do it by the part of the building that you are the closest to. That is the one that you want to have horizontal to the edge of your paper. Okay, because these other lines, especially in a wide angle photograph like this, they can start to skew when you take a photograph. You know, just because you're doing a kind of like a wide angle and everything starts to point in on the edges, and you ever seen those where the short buildings look like they're teetering in on either
Mhm.
side?
Mhm.
So it's always this line, the closest edge of the building to you. Okay, this one here, oops. Oh, good. Okay, this one here, oh my gosh, this is a perspective, either nightmare or challenge, or depends on how you're looking at it. This one here, I'm not going to show you two-point perspective, but I am going to explain it to you. Okay, where am I standing when I took this?
Oh,
Roughly. Look at the clues.
to the left of that. To the left of the table? That first table?
Like right about here.
Yeah,
And
I think.
what were your clues?
Well, I can see directly on top of that table.
Correct?
I can also see the side of the hostess stand, I guess. Is that
Yeah.
it?
You can see the side of this. I
Mhm.
can see the side of this. Okay, if I'm too far over here, I'm not going to be able to see it. So think this through. We know we're taller than the table, so we know the eye view line is going to be up here somewhere. But if I can see the edge of this, I can't be too close to this. Okay, so I want to be standing somewhere about here so I can see the edge here. Now, it's very possible I could still see it from here. Okay, but it's roughly right in here. So if you're not sure, always say, okay, if I'm standing there, what could I see? So I see this side of the hostess table, which eliminates us being anywhere over here, because then we would not be able to see that. And if we were too far standing over here, we would not be able to see the front on an angle like that. We'd be like right in front of it. Okay, I'm not sure that last thing made sense. Anyway, so this one here, what we're going to do is I'm going to use this as an example for your two-point perspective. This one would be a lot of fun to show you, but it would take a very long time. So I'm going to give you some key pieces on that. Whoops, let me flip this over, sorry. Make sure that stays straight. And this is what I mean by always having a sheet of paper that extends out, because that way what you're able to do is you're able to extend your line. You know, have a piece of a pad of newsprint paper, put your photographs on it. It just extends it. Couple of things going on here. We know we're tall, we're standing taller than the table because we can see the top of it. Okay, we get here. We can see the top of the table. It doesn't tell us a whole load of information, but we can still see the top of it. We can see the top of this hostess stand right here. We're going to call it a hostess stand, Peggy. Right here, okay? Not a lot, but we can see some of it. The other thing we can see is this edge comes down and this edge comes over. So it is not in a straight line. We can see the top of the table here, top of the table here, top of the table here. All those things are telling us the eye view line has to be above that. Okay, so it has to be above the tables. It's kind of close to here, but I still see an angle. So if I see an angle, has to be above it. And I can see underneath here, can I? Has to fall somewhere in the middle here. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to find something in the photograph that's on the same wall. See this? It's all on the same wall. So I'm going to come back here. Yep, and I should have had the paper on the other side. Okay, and I am going to take the trim work that's right back here. I'm going to draw a straight line over. Well, it's right on that trim work.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to go above it, and or I can go below it. Look at, I've got the edge of
Oh, the chair
even
rail.
better than the paintings. Look, I've got this edge of the backing for the seats. Okay, and I'm going to take that, line that up. Oh, You see where this is leading to? They're intersecting right here, right on the, whoops, right on the edge of the paper, right there. So that tells us that our eye view line, again, it has to be parallel to the edge. So I can take this clear, I can come up, I can double check everything. Look at it is, it's above that, it's above that, it's above that, and it is somewhere right around here. So that would be our eye view line. If we traveled it over, it intersects that. And if nothing else with perspective, if you get used to identifying where you're standing so you know what you can see, and in this case, how far up above the horizon line is, just because you can see the tops of those tables, you know you're looking for roughly in here. And that's where everything's going to be built off of. So including this, if we brought this line up, it would meet, we'd bring that line over, it'd meet these guys. This would be 2-point perspective. This is the, remember we talked about having edges that are closest to you. This is the closest to us here. So these lines, see that shelf there? Let me get this coming across. Oh, geez, that's my drawing paper again. I'm gonna do this very lightly. That's gonna come off over here. This one's gonna come off over here. It's gonna intersect here. That one intersected right about there, even not on my drawing. And that's what I would base this box right here off of. The same with that. 2-point takes a little bit more explanation, so I do wanted to show it to you, but we're going to be doing a little bit of that in the next paint along with, you know, a fun, I think it's going to be an indoor scene. You can do it with outdoor scenes, you know, especially with buildings, but I think we're going to do something fun with an indoor scene. So this is the one that I'm actually going to take to the next step and do a quick little drawing. So we'll get everything out of here. Okay, so this is I told you I'm doing nighttime scenes. Well, this was a dark interior with light, and it's very hard to see without being backlit. When you print off a nocturne or dark interior, you lose a lot of the details, which is kind of good. But for the purposes of teaching you guys about perspective or showing it to you, what I did is I went in and I lightened the whole image up. Okay, so in order for you to actually see the lines, I needed to take and turn that into a photograph that would show some of the lines of the objects that are in the room, you know, including the rug, the settee, the little desk table here. What did we call that before? The edges over here. I mean, it loses its ambiance though, doesn't it? I mean, that photograph that we had before, that's what I want to paint, but this is going to give me the information. Now, again, we're going to ignore just a couple of these lines because I had to draw on this paper, but this is just a little sketch paper. So we're going to start off. What I did is, this is an 8x10. I drew an 8x10 box in here so that would be comparable. First thing I'm going to do is just make my guesstimate on where the center is on the horizontal and the center on my vertical, which makes this the middle of the paper, somewhere right around there. Where am I standing in this photograph when I took this photograph?
On the rug, maybe?
Yep, I'm on the rug. What's that clue again?
The edges go on an angle.
Edges go on an angle. Okay. And when edges go on an angle and one goes one direction, one goes in the other, it means you're standing somewhere in the middle of it. Because if you were standing to the left, they'd both be going in the, well, on angles, but they both be going away from you. Here, what they're doing is they're coming around you. Right up. That would be the ideal one to use to find our vanishing point. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna come up. Draw a straight line. I'm gonna come over here. And line that up. Whoops, oh, went a little crazy there. Yikes. It's this one right here. Okay, that's where they intersect. I could double check myself, and how could I double check myself? I could find any other object in here and I could draw and see if how close it comes to this, but also does it fall on that same line. So we're gonna make sure that this is slightly crooked. It looks slightly crooked. Let me just, could be because of the paper that's underneath it, but let me just take and move it slightly. It'll make me feel a little bit better. Even a tiny bit off can be a little problem. I'm standing on the side, but I think it's all right. Okay. So I'm gonna come down, do the same thing, line that up, make sure it's edge, slide it down. Sure, I'm pretty well even with the edge. Check the bottom, it looks a little higher there, so I'm gonna slant it a little bit up. And come down. Tells me where my eye view line is. Slightly higher than in the middle. I'm gonna double check it with a couple of things here. One, this is the hostess station right here. Okay, I can see there's things on top of this hostess station, but I'm not seeing it like I saw the tops of the table. Remember the last one, we could see the tops of the table, what was actually on it. Whereas here, we can only see that they're sitting on top of something. We can't actually see the top of the table. So that's pretty darn close. The other thing too is this edge right here where this is a staircase and this is some of the trim work that's underneath the stair. That's straight there. We also have this backing to the settee that is here. And this one we can see there's a little bit of a slant. Let me show you right here. There's a little bit of a slant to that. Let me draw that in so you can see it. And that makes sense because see, now it's going down. And if it's going down, it meant that this line did have to be below it. Let's check it with the next obvious thing, and that is the picture on the wall. So I'm going to go to the frame. Oh, this is interesting. This one is totally lined up with that dot. Does not necessarily happen all the time. Objects in different locations do not always line up at the same dot. Remember that the building we just did where it was multiple dots that was on there? Okay. I should say vanishing points, they're not dots. So here, there's the top right there. I'm gonna come down. And yeah, these guys are all lining up right here.
Oh, we did a good job.
There we go.
Nice.
Now, a couple things happened. This was a very skewed photograph when I first took it. And partly, again, was because it was this is slightly cropped from the original. And of all the things that are in here, what is, well, there's a couple of things, but what one thing would you think really needs to be anchored in a very much of a stable vertical position? What do you think needs to be anchored in a stable vertical position? While you think about that, I'm going to draw the line because everybody should know that. Otherwise, you'd be picking it up all the time. Lamp.
Oh, I was say the door.
That lamp is not straight. In this painting, it's going to fall off the top of the hostess station, correct? So in the one, we looked for the edges of the building. In this one here, I would look at this guy and I would make sure that he is parallel to the edge of the paper so that I don't wind up having a lamp that's on a even slight angle. It's going to look like it's going to tip off. Now, if you're playing with perspective and you're trying to make things a little playful and you know, there's some artists out there doing fabulous things and they're like skewing perspective. That's a different story. I'm talking about representation and, you know, really trying to make something appear as it would in reality. So we want this guy. He's the most important straight line in here. And our edges will just come through. They'll be fine. So I'm going to do this parallel so you can see it. So I get my line on here. I know my vanishing point is somewhere right around here. There's my middle. Here's my middle. Here's vanishing point. Vanishing point. Yep, that's about it. Okay. Now this is what I mean about eyeballing it. Okay. What you can do. And if you're new to this, I'd say side by side works really well. Proportion the same. You can do whatever size your photograph it is, do it. And that means you're going same for same, and you can get things lined up. What I have to remind you of is I'm doing this at night. I'm not going to need all this detail in here because guess what? A lot of this is not going to show up because it's a very dark room. But I need the lines to be all accurate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to do some of my basics. Basic line coming straight down. Want it parallel to the side here. I'm drawing with the black China markers. This is below. Ooh, it's about halfway between here and there. Do you see eyeball it? See that? That's about the same space as that is. Not so sure I like that. Maybe I'll make it a little longer. Okay, it's not going to change things around too much. You'll see what I mean. Okay, now here's my vanishing point here. One thing I can do here, this is a good point right here. I can double check it. That vanishing point is off to the side. Okay, the bottom of that. So I know, okay, so I don't want it to line up. I want it to be on an angle like here. So I'm gonna put that in there, right there. Now I'm going to come down. What is my next line? It's this one over here, the corner of the building there. And I need room for my lamp. So I'm going to just roughly put my lamp right about here, up a little higher. And I'm going to have this come down here. And there's the edge of my building, the interior walls. I'm going to do the bottom. That's light that is showing from underneath here. At least I think it is. I like to think it is. So we're going to go with that. Now that's handy. I already had that line from the last thing I drew that wasn't supposed to be there, but there's a nice straight line. Get that across. Some of that's going to get covered up. Okay, so I already have the shape of the building there, the interior of the room. Okay. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to set in the doors back here. Now I must say this is on a slight angle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my verticals in first. There's the edge, so I'm going to come out. Oops, you know what? I think I'm going to move this in a little bit because I want to have enough wall over here, and I kind of cramp that in a little bit. I'm going to get the edge of my doorway. And the doorway is pretty even on both sides. So see, you do all those parallel lines first. Like that. Okay, now I know that I don't know if I'm going to put the tavern sign in. Let's go like this. Draw that. It's the top below the tavern sign. And I know these doors are even, so this is divided in half. And this is where if you feel compelled that you need to use a ruler, use a ruler, but I'm just going to eyeball it for now. This is just a sketch, so probably wouldn't okay. Thin panes, I'm going to get in there. They are fairly even all the way around. It's a little skinny panes that are going in here. These guys are all parallel.
So, Betsy,
Yeah.
in the photograph, the bottom and top of the door look like they're running at an angle.
Yes. The
So-
bottom and the top, yes, they are. It's
But
a
you've
very,
squared them off?
I've squared them off. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I squared them
Yeah.
off.
Okay.
You could do that because this is again your 2 points perspective. There is your wall, and this is going to be coming up. This line here would go way, way, way up here. So you could take and you could have them
Yeah.
go up because it's 2 point perspective. This is the line right here. This would ever so slightly go up.
Why does it look that way in the photograph? I don't quite understand.
Well, it's probably
mean,
because
it-
I'm standing over here and I'm not dead smack in front of
Oh,
it.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
which means,
Yep.
but I've chosen to just
Yeah.
turn it into a square it off as I'm standing right in front of it. Okay,
Yeah.
but what happens is any line that is above your eye view line, any line up here, these are going to come down slightly.
Yeah.
Okay, and notice I'm just doing it ever so slightly. And usually what I do
Yeah.
is I'm doing something like that. I go right above the line and then I go right below the line. So I now have a slanted line.
Oh, I see.
These guys are going to slant
Yeah.
down slightly. And this is below the line. God, they're almost like right smack in the middle too. So this one will go up slightly.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put that in dark so you can see it, which means these go up slightly, ever so slightly. Okay, and those go down. So you just always remember, above the line, they go down, below the line, they go up. And then everything here, think of those clapboards, the shingles, the bricks, same sort of thing. It's just with different objects. This right here, this is 2 point perspective. And I kind of move my wall over because I have this hostess station that is falling almost directly on the line. But I want to give a little 2 point perspective. So now I'm doing the opposite. And here is the edge of that. Here's the edge of my hostess stand right here. This edge right here. Let me draw it in white because it's longer than it is wider. Okay, so it's long this way, and then it's narrow back here. So there's the edge of it right here. And it is covering the, always get your verticals in. Okay, it's about that. It's coming down in front. Coming down, can't see it here, but we know it comes down. Okay, and I want to have, remember what I said about the lines? This is your center one right here. Everything from this center, this way it's going to go up, that way it's going to go up. Same thing that happened over here, went down. So this one's 2 ways. So I'm going to have it ever so slightly go down, ever so slightly go down. Okay, and then this is where I can put, this was the edge of the room. I'm gonna have my, I nearly said umbrella, my lampshade right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get in here, and because I know I'm now up, see, this is above it, so that's gonna have a curve on it. Might exaggerate it a little bit. And this has got a curve coming down. I am not seeing very much underneath it. Okay, if I was seeing much underneath it, I'd have like this sort of a shape. And the line is below it. I am below it, but I'm also standing taller, eye view, and this is starting to not make sense if I give too much detail to that there. So I'm just going to have a little bit of a curve. Coming down, and then I've got my center right here. Just going to get that basic shape in. And remember get the verticals in first. Remember what we said about that vanishing point? Now I eyeball it. See, this is gonna go there. Always take the one farthest away. I have my painting on the wall. Let's get this corner. I like that corner coming straight down into it. That must have been another line. I don't think I can erase that one. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna shade that in because that's gonna annoy me back there. You can see a line. All right, now here, this is a box. Remember how I said if a line is below the horizon line, it's not going to be flat like that unless I'm standing directly in front of it. I know I'm not standing directly in front of it because I can see both legs. There's another leg back here and a leg here, which means that this line went slightly up, this line went slightly down, which means here, this goes up, going up to this. And this one, if we could see it, would be going back like that. So you're always thinking of, you're making, see the way we made a cube? And then it's all covered up by the settee. And this is here, it's coming down, it's around. And then this is where the arm comes out. Right here. You're doing the same sort of thing. You're thinking, okay, if it's coming towards me, this line goes, this is the back of the settee right here. The line has to come out towards me. This is the seat of the settee. That can go pretty well straight across on a horizontal. And then it's got all this fancy trim on it. And I'm just going to fill this in, make this a little bit darker. And I'm just going to do a couple of squiggles right here. And then this comes off at an angle. And there's the seat. So you wind up with, you think of things in terms of being cubes. And this fancy little thing, the foot job that they have right there, add that on. And the perspective comes in with these lines right here. This is going to be on a slight angle up to here. This is going to be on a greater angle up to here. And then I'm just going to, that's what I don't think the white's going to show. Oh yeah, the white will show. And that's where I'll put the light in there. That gives it that 3D look. Same thing that's happening here. Got the light right on the side here. Get the light right on the side here. No light. This is not catching light. The light's all coming from back in here. This is way too light. Don't forget that. There's a gorgeous shadow in the photograph. I mean, yeah, shadow in the photograph. So right back in here, I'll make that a little bit light, and then there'll be this lovely little shadow of the lamp right there. This photograph I would probably make a little bit smaller than it is in real life. So again, this guy came above my horizon line, so he points down. Okay, he curves around, straightens out because he's a straight object. It's not falling backwards. These lines have to come down on a slant. And they get wider as they come down. This can be on a flat with a slight raise to it. Same with the arm, slight raise to it. And we are seeing a little bit of light on top, so I could add just a little touch of light right there. Might even be catching a little bit of light from the lamp if we played around with the light right there. Ooh, we can play around with a little bit of the light right there too. And the easiest thing, which we could have done the very first thing, was to draw in the rug. And because I kind of switched myself around and went from drawing, gonna go back to drawing it, because that's what I was thinking of it. Flat, flat, to draw this flat. If this is flat, it means that I am standing right in the middle here. And these are gonna come out on an angle. I have a shadow here on an angle. This is all gonna be shaded. This is gonna be darker because it's not catching as much light. And then I have got this lovely light and shadow that's falling here. And I can put a little bit there. Oh, and that's there. Let's throw in your light. Straight, angle, 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 angle. Trying to think if there's anything else that would be hitting. And I'm not doing all the panes on here. I would have to decide whether I am going to actually, and here, this is what we're gonna do. So we can see. That was. Okay, so the point will be, when this is painted, this is very dark in here. Am I gonna need to spend a lot of time on a whole load of detail in there? No, I'm not. I see lovely little areas of light. So I'm gonna put a couple little areas of light, and we got a little bit of light back there. Pull that guy down on the sideways. Okay, this guy's dark. Look at this, it's just all totally dark. This is dark. There's that corner of the room. Remember, I moved it a little bit away, and then I drew over it, so heaven knows where it was. And a little bit lighter on this side right here. And see, look at that's what I really like. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? And then I could play around with the variations in how dark or light. And these guys are super, super, super dark.
It looks great. And will you put in the stairway on the left or do something else over there?
No, you know what? Because I really like this here. Okay, that's almost
Yeah. It makes a nice shape.
doesn't it? And then there's like little bits where they're poking through here. And then there's light that's falling on here. And I think there's probably one of the, what do you call it, when there's like almost like a casing in the wall there? Right, have little bits of light hitting a few of these areas. And then the rest of it would be pretty dark. This corner will be really dark, which makes sense. Where's the light coming from? The light's not hitting it. This is all dark, which is why I'm probably not going to put the tavern sign, because then all of a sudden your eyes are going to go up to this tavern sign that's above the, and there was this lovely shadow that was right here. I drew that in. That really pushes the, and shadows, lights and shadows follow the same thing. The light's coming from here. Over here, the light's going to go in this direction. I'm standing here. Over here, the shadows are going to go in this direction. So the shadows follow that same rule based on where it is you are standing. And this guy, I need to make him a little bit wider right there. And he's got light on him, but he's also pretty dark. So going to get in there back and forth. And then we don't want to forget it. This is like one of my favorite parts. The way that light falls underneath the door. So I would go back in and I would really kick up the light. And I know that the light is really from up here, so I have to be careful and not get too carried away. I can come back in and It's just a matter of playing around. And at this point, I am just following the lines that I already have in here. And I've got this squared off again, so I know I have to do 90-degree lines for the windows. So questions? So how about when I do the paint along, I'm not going to have anything that's terribly, actually, you know what? This one really is not. Once you understand all the different little components, this is not really a terribly difficult one to do because almost everything really just points right to it in the photograph. This is pointing right up to here. This is pointing up to there. That's pointing up there. This is all pointing. This is right on my eye view line. We gave it a little bit of height so I could have this angle here. We adjusted our lamp. And then this I would probably turn into a darker photograph because I don't want that painting. I don't want that painting showing up. I want the light and the shadow that's falling on the wall. Same with over here. I would go back in here.
It's great to see how you've simplified the shapes.
Yeah.
It,
But you
it,
get the whole feel for the painting, don't you? Look at the
Yeah.
action that's coming in here.
I
Now,
can
usually
totally, I
used to
can
go
totally
through-
see it as a Betsy Payne cook.
Oh. Well, that's
Can't
nice
wait.
to know. Nice to know, Marge. Now, of course, when I would go to actually do the drawing on the board, a couple of places I'd pay a little bit more attention to than this, like preliminary sketch to get an idea of what the lights and darks are. And one of them would be this right here, because this is really beautiful. The light that's coming on the corner, hitting the edge of the settee that's right here. So I would pay attention to that. The other one is back here. I'd probably pay a little bit more attention to the type of lines that I have, because there's this other very subtle line that's happening that would be nice. And clearly I would pay more attention to getting the sides set up. They're falling right on that halfway zone. And guess what? If you said, oh yeah, I'm really not crazy about this eye view line being so close to the middle, it is a little bit, it's still above the middle. There's the middle right here. You could push that up, and guess what would happen? It would just mean you would have more of where the carpet is. You could drop it, and then you'd have less of what's above it. And then just keep scribbling over and figure out the things that I don't have to paint a whole load of detail over here. I just need to paint where that light is falling. Yeah, nice dark painting, like a stormy night painting or something belongs there. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. So just let me just go back a little bit. Okay, any questions? Hopefully that didn't seem too overwhelming, but I think you saw in the
I think it's great, Betsy.
Oh, good, because you can take something that looks like it's really
I don't remember
complicated
that
and you
that's
just
the
keep
place.
finding where am I standing,
go
where
for
are
some-
those verticals,
a
and
little bit
everything's
more of a,
based off the verticals, and just, I think you
use
can
a
hear
little
somebody talking, unless it's my voice that's reflecting back.
Maybe.
But, and again, if you're doing a nighttime, just for your own sanity, unless you know it's a room in your own house, of which this is not. Just go in and use Photoshop or your phone app, and just lighten the photograph so that you can see a bit of the edges more than you can in the dark. And then put it away, because otherwise, you know what's going to happen? You're going to start drawing a lot of the stuff
Yeah.
that you really can't see because it's dark. It was very dark in that room. So I don't want to lose that sense of being in a very dark room by giving too much detail to things that really are in the shadows.
Do you think you'll paint that?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. I had about 4 or 5 paintings that I was trying to figure out. I did sketches for them over the last few days, but I thought this one was really good without showing perspective without it being too complicated. I like that
Mhm.
street scene too, but I think this was more interesting. You know, because you got to see the way it looks, you know,
Now,
we're all
where is
sitting
that?
inside a
that
building.
room?
You could draw the corner of the room you're sitting in and you know, follow that same idea.
Where
Okay.
is that room?
This is it's a tavern up in Walpole, New Hampshire. It's called
Okay.
the name of the inn is Watkins Inn, and it's on Hooper Golf Course. And I
Oh,
go
my.
once a year. That's where I
I'll
do
have
my
to go
outdoor
there.
painting, and everybody else golfs. But it's a really
Oh, nice.
pretty spot, really pretty spot. But that's the inside lobby.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for doing this, Betsy.
Oh, good. Glad you
I
enjoyed
think,
it.
Yeah.
you know, when I see the first one, it's like, oh my gosh, where do I begin? But now it's
Mhm.
making all these lines and explanations that you're giving make sense to me.
Good. Yeah. And really, it's just where are you standing? That's your line. Find that eye view line / horizon. I keep saying
Mhm.
that because some people have it in horizon line ingrained in their heads. It's the same thing. And then from there, really, it's just building. And if you think of things as being cubes, so that, you know, you're building that space of the front of the hostess station to the back of it with the sides, everything starts coming together. The settee, same thing. You know, you're building something that has form and shape, and it's all perspective. It's all perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sounds
paint along
good.
coming up on the Thursday, the 19th. I'll send out info if anyone's interested. And it will be a simplified version, but it will have most likely be an indoor scene using some 2-point perspective so that you get a chance to practice that. So we'll do the same thing as before, draw, then paint. Okay?
Let
Yay.
us
Great.
know.
Okay.
Awesome.
Can't
Yeah.
wait.
So
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.